Welcome to the Fox 54 Weekend Review. I'm Kenesha Dees. It's the only place in North Alabama to get the week's local headlines condensed into one program. Here's a taste of what's ahead. Our top stories this week: speed limit changes coming to the Chapman Mountain corridor, and a shock for Decatur City Schools when a local company settles a tax dispute with Morgan County. Let's take a look. Does your daily commute have you going over Chapman Mountain? You may start to see some changes to the speed limits along US 72. Here's why. The east end of I-565 all the way to Shields Road is almost 4 miles. In that stretch, the speed limit goes from 70 to 50 back to 65. According to the city of Huntsville and the Alabama Department of Transportation, city growth and traffic is causing them to reevaluate speed limits along that entire stretch of road. Fox 54's Caleb Aguayo takes us to Chapman Mountain to bring us up to speed.
These speed limits up on Chapman Mountain subject to change. The city of Huntsville and the Alabama Department of Transportation are working together to adjust the speed limits along US 72. According to Seth Burkett with AlDOT, it'll better reflect the growth and development headed east toward Moores Mill Road. He also says it'll better match the speeds people are actually driving up on the mountain.
As you see development along that corridor, you see a lot more traffic, coming in and out of areas, that are developing there along US 72. So that can kind of create some issues and presents a good situation where you might want to look at reducing the speed limits.
Burkett says it's almost all because of new developments along the highway, from restaurants and businesses to apartment complexes, and all of that brings consistently heavier traffic to and from Huntsville.
Typically, we get a request from the municipality that they would like to see a speed limit change in an area. Oftentimes it has to do with development or new growth, new roads and intersections that may be going in along a corridor.
Some of those speed limits along US 72 will be raised and others lowered, but they're aiming to make them all a consistent 55 miles per hour all the way to the Huntsville city limit just past Shields Road. The city's traffic engineering director, Nick Neen, said in a statement that it's part of a reassessment that the city does every year to accommodate growth and development. He said, "Safety and consistency is key. We look at growth, the addition of new developments, increase or decrease in volume of traffic, and speed study analysis to determine whether speed limits should be adjusted within our guidelines. It's part of an ever-growing and changing city." Burkett says the AlDOT study is most heavily influenced by the common speed of traffic on a given road. The next steps belong to the city of Huntsville, but speed limits in general are constrained to some degree by statewide legislation. In Huntsville, I'm Caleb Aguayo, Fox 54 News.
And he also says AlDOT's speed study aligns with the city's annual review, suggesting that the change needs to be made, but it will require a city ordinance to update the speed limit. A settlement agreement between a Decatur company and the Morgan County Revenue Commission could have pricey implications for the Decatur City school system. Court records show that property owned by the Hexcel Corporation was overtaxed by the Revenue Commission in 2021 and 2022. Those records also show that 2 pending settlements would total around $1.4 million. Now, half of that money will potentially come out of the Decatur City Schools budget. Fox 54's Gabe Glassman explains.
Court records dating back to 2021 and 2022 show Hexcel was overtaxed by Morgan County, citing obsolescence from the COVID-19 pandemic. Potential settlement documents show the county now owes Hexcel about $1.4 million, but this will have some major implications on the Decatur City Schools 2026 budget because,
regardless of the dollar figure, Decatur City Schools would have to pay back half. We're going to protect the classrooms, but we'll have to pass a deficit budget.
Decatur City Schools Superintendent Dr. Michael Douglas says he only found out about these lawsuits a few weeks ago, but these proceedings have been going on for years.
I was taken back because, our budget for next year we're working on now. And, if you have a year or two to plan, then you can make some decisions. But at this late date, that was the big thing is, okay, we'll just have to dip into reserves. Which we have reserves.
When asked why Decatur City Schools would bear roughly $700,000 of the tax refund, Morgan County Revenue Commissioner Amanda Scott tells Fox 54 any refunds are made proportionally to the percentages in which disbursements are made.
We don't make money. We provide a service. We educate children, but I'm the second largest employer in Decatur. I would just hope everybody would keep this in mind, and that's why we filed our motion to intervene. Anywhere from 10 to 20 teachers is what you're looking at. That's a huge hit. You're talking about class sizes going from manageable sizes to larger sizes. Obviously, individually, we would do it through attrition. I have over 50, 60 teachers retire every year or resign, so nobody would lose their job, but we wouldn't be able to hire back, which would increase class sizes.
But Douglas adds they don't anticipate any job losses as they will pay out of their reserves fund. A Hexcel spokesperson tells FOX54 Hexcel has no comment on how Morgan County decides to allocate the impact of the settlement. From Decatur, Gabe Glassman, FOX54 News.
The Alabama legislative session ended this week. 2 big bills passed, one stopping cell phone use in schools, another expanding police immunity. We've got local reaction, plus Congressman Dale Strong in Athens. In a move that sparked both praise and concern, Governor Kay Ivey has signed into law a freshly passed piece of legislation commonly known as the Back the Blue Bill. It expands legal protections for officers beyond those that have been in place for years. Ivey releases a statement this afternoon that reads, with HB 202 signed into law, I am proud Alabama is now the most pro-law enforcement state in the country. But some fear this law could do more harm than good. Markin McCoy has more on what it could mean.
House Bill 202 passed in the final hours of Alabama's legislative session with strong support from Republican lawmakers. The bill expands legal immunity for officers who act within the scope of their duties, unless their actions are deemed reckless or violate constitutional rights. The bill breaks down as such: expanded legal immunity. Officers cannot be prosecuted or sued for actions taken in the line of duty unless they are proven to be reckless or unconstitutional. Clear definition of scope of duty. Officers are protected if their actions align with departmental policy and state law. Use of force data collection. Agencies must begin reporting complaints involving use of force, creating a statewide database. Retroactive application prohibited. The bill applies only to future incidents, not to past or ongoing cases. The Madison County Sheriff's Office voiced strong support for the bill, stating, your support sends a powerful message to the men and women who wear the badge, that their service, sacrifice, and commitment to protecting our communities matter. In a world that often forgets the weight of this calling, your actions speak volumes. But the bill is drawing sharp criticism from civil rights advocates, especially in the wake of high-profile cases like the police killing of Steve Perkins, a black man shot to death outside his home in Decatur during what authorities said was an attempted repossession. In that case, critics argued that officers used excessive force, and video evidence prompted widespread outrage. Under House Bill 202, future cases like Perkins could face higher legal barriers for prosecution or civil lawsuits, potentially making it harder for families to seek justice unless clear evidence of reckless or unconstitutional behavior is shown. In Huntsville, Ken McCoy, Fox 54 News.
The new law is set to take effect October 1st. A piece of legislation signed into law today by Governor Kay Ivey would ban cell phones in all K-12 public schools. Those behind it say it will help create a better learning environment for students. Our Gabe Glassman now joins us in studio. And Gabe, you say Alabama isn't the first state to implement a ban like this.
Yeah, Kenesha. And Alabama isn't even the second or third state in the U.S. to fully ban cell phones during the, quote, instructional day. It's actually the 10th state to do so. Starting later this year, students won't be able to pull out cell phones when class is in session this fall. The states in red are where phones are not allowed in schools. Florida's restrictions took effect first back in 2023. The Freeing Our Classroom of Unnecessary Screens for Safety, or FOCUS Act, points to negative impacts cell phones and social media use have on students. The rule will apply to all Alabama K-12 public school systems starting this fall. No personal devices when class is in session when the bell rings for the first time. But some school districts within Alabama have gotten a jump start on the restriction. Huntsville City Schools Student Code of Conduct says personal electronic devices may not be used by students for any disruptive purpose, including telephone calls, text messaging, taking photographs and videos, or any other functions during the regular school day. Students may possess PEDs, but they must be powered off and out of sight in backpacks, purses, or lockers. Madison City Schools implemented a no cell phone policy last year. We also talked with Hartselle City Schools board member Dr. James Joy, who says,
we all hear about how social media and cell phones tend to be a disruptive factor in the school system. And so for Hartsville City Schools, they really had some policies in place that really limits how much cell phone use that they can have. Our junior high principal was quick to point out that it has been a really good thing to pretty much limit the cell phone usage. We're trying to make a point that, we really don't need cell phone usage because it is a distraction.
The Focused Act is causing a bit of controversy on social media channels. One parent, Kenneth McKnight, argues our teenager uses their phone daily, not just for games or social media, but to stay organized, track assignments, and manage their schedule. McKnight went on to say this blanket ban won't solve the problem, it just creates new ones. The Focused Act also requires the State Department of Education to provide safe social media training for students before they enter 8th grade. Live in the studio, Gabe Glassman, Fox 54 News.
Well, the congressman who represents most of the Tennessee Valley in Athens today to give us more on the prospects of Space Command headquarters. Representative Dale Strong wouldn't commit to a move that would bring the operation to Redstone, but he did say Huntsville is the #1 spot for Space Command when looking at national security. Strong also said in his Washington update that he's been working with Republican and Democratic lawmakers to put North Alabama in the congressional spotlight. Strong touted outreach across the aisle to bring Space Command to the Rocket City, in addition to his work to make North Alabama a central hub for the FBI. Other topics at Monday's session: national security concerns related to Chinese-owned land in the U.S., a national debt of $36 trillion, and the latest developments regarding tariff negotiations. But Strong's appearance comes amid widespread protests against the Trump administration and Republican lawmakers. Fox 54's Caleb Aguayo takes us to Athens to hear from Strong and those opposing him.
Congressman Dale Strong met with a warm reception inside the gymnasium at Athens State University, a much cooler one from a group outside. The protests from about 20 people who want to see Strong directly address their criticisms.
He has to be aware of it and see it and feel it viscerally. He has to internalize the problems that we're seeing. And he's not putting himself into a position to do that. He is isolating himself from the controversy. He is ignoring the pleas and the desire to have him present while we express ourselves. So when you say he's representing us in Congress, no, he's not. He's representing a portion of his constituents in Congress to the exclusion of others.
And although some say Strong isn't addressing his constituents here in North Alabama, his Washington update this morning highlighted some of the work he's been doing up in D.C. From Space Command to the southern border all the way to China. He fielded questions about his efforts to work on both sides of the aisle, his experiences, and a trip to the Oval Office.
Those protesters say Strong has been difficult to access, missing town hall meetings and avoiding question and answer sessions. But before his update to the Athens Limestone Chamber, Strong acknowledged the protesters outside, saying he's been, quote, accessible to the public throughout his term.
Very accessible to the people. You look at some of those outside, I understand they're frustrated every time there's been any communication. They hate Donald Trump, they hate Elon Musk. They're also reeling from they've lost every seat from the courthouse to the state house to Washington.
As for the fate of Space Command, he says he's all but confirmed its move to North Alabama, something Fox 54 reported earlier this month, citing sources close to discussions. Strong said the command needs to be at Redstone Arsenal because it's the most qualified installation for national security.
The Senate has voted cloture, and they're going to bring forward the Secretary of the Air Force either this week or next week. That right there also starts the process to bring us a Secretary of the Air Force, which will then bring a recommendation for Space Command.
Strong said the evaluation for Space Command's location was a 21-pronged approach, detailing just why Huntsville is best suited for the headquarters based on national security, but he didn't say what those evaluations were. In Athens, I'm Caleb Aguayo, Fox 54 News.
The Washington update was a ticketed event that cost $55 for most attendees. It was $45 for members of the chamber, but more than 200 people showed up to hear from Strong, with others outside taking part in the protest. Next, 2 stories out of Madison. The debate continues over fluoride in Madison water as residents voice their concerns, and the city's fire and rescue got a new permanent chief. Madison residents voicing their concerns tonight over the decision to remove fluoride from city water. On April 15th, Madison Utilities unanimously decided to stop adding fluoride to city water. The reasoning, according to water manager David Moore, was to protect the people and equipment that have to add the corrosive substance to the water supply. Some tonight voicing their qualms with the Madison Utility Board, saying the proposal is going to negatively affect dental health, particularly among children. But those in favor of the removal have concerns about what's in the water, saying added chemicals can also have detrimental effects on our health. Here's what they had to say.
For every 4 children who grow up in Madison, if you guys make this decision, one of them will get a cavity that was otherwise not going to. A cavity costs $200 to repair on a cheap level. There's 60,000 people in Madison, about 15% of which are children. That's 2,250 children who will get cavities that would not otherwise get cavities. That is $450,000 alone in costs that are going to be bared by the parents of those children to repair those cavities.
People in this world who not as wealthy, are maybe on a limited income, and they may not have that ability to go out and fluoridate, but get fluoridated treatments for their kids since the water would no longer be fluoridated. The dental health communities still are advising fluoride. And so until the American Dental Association stops saying that you should fluoridate the water, well, I think we should go ahead and continue to fluoridate the water.
We all want to see fluoridation kept because we know the impact. We know the impact it will have on their health, on them missing school, on parents having increased out-of-pocket costs and missing work costs too. We don't want that to happen to our children here. You have one period in life that you're able to affect enamel formation with fluoride, from prenatal till about age 8. After that, there's no way to impact the fluoride or impact the enamel at that same level. And we know that fluoroapatite, this improved enamel, is much more resilient than enamel that's not had that treatment. And that's why this has been around since the 1940s and has 8 decades of science to prove its efficiency and its safety.
Those residents voicing their concerns had to submit a request to speak ahead of time, and the only ones able to speak at the hearing were Madison residents who get their water from Madison Utilities. No decision was made tonight on whether to move forward with the plan. For the latest updates, go to FOX54.com. The FDA announcing plans today to phase out ingestible fluoride supplements. These products are recommended for children at increased risk of tooth decay or cavities because of low fluoride in their local drinking water. The FDA commissioner says these products pose a risk when swallowed because they may interfere with healthy gut bacteria that are critical to digestion and immunity, as well as possible associations between excess fluoride intake and decreased IQ. And with local governments like Madison removing fluoride from their water, the need for this supplement is expected to grow. A familiar face at Madison Fire Rescue is now the new permanent chief there. Council members gave unanimous approval last night to Brandy Williams, removing the interim from her title and settling a leadership question that's been open since former Chief David Bailey left for a job in Virginia. Williams tells us she's seen a lot of change in her 27 years with the department, and she expects more of that as the city grows even bigger. Williams says her priorities include
securing land for Fire Station 5. We have a need in the southwest area of the city. So securing land for that, and then having a plan to build a fire station. We already have 2 trucks on order. We have an additional ladder truck on order and an additional engine on order. We would like to shift to 4896 schedule. Currently we're on a 2448 schedule. So going to a 4896 schedule would allow these guys better sleep and better rest at home and give them more days off and time with their family. Making sure that we have the fire stations to cover the area that we need and continuing to replace our trucks. Right now it's taken about 3 years or a little bit more than 3 years to get fire trucks, so you have to be planning well ahead. So that is one thing that we're going to have to keep up with, is planning well into the future. The days of getting a truck in 9 months or less, those days are over.
Williams also hopes to shift the work schedules of Madison firefighters to a plan that she says is more practical and better for the team and their families. Williams is the first woman to lead the department, which enjoys a Class 1 public protection rating, the highest possible score for a fire rescue service. It's been a long wait for family and friends of Huntsville native David Barnes, held in captivity in Russia for more than 3 years. We spoke with his sister and a family friend about new hope they have for his release, thanks to an American ballerina. Loved ones speaking for the first time tonight after they learned a man in Russian captivity for more than 3 years has a chance at coming home. His name is David Barnes, a Huntsville native and U.S. Marine. David went to Russia in 2021 to see his 2 sons after his ex-wife fled there with them following a contentious custody battle. He was arrested after his ex claimed he abused them. He was acquitted of those charges in Texas, but the recent release of an American ballerina has brought more attention to his case, even reaching the White House. We caught up with one of David's sisters and friend.
We owe a lot of gratitude to Ksenia Carolina, the ballerina that was released. She had a handwritten letter that was meant to be given straight to Donald Trump at her meeting at the Oval Office Monday week ago, I guess it was. And she got so excited that she had it in her purse and forgot to give it to him, and left the Oval Office and remembered, but it was too late to go back in there apparently, so she gave it to a fellow named Steve Witkoff, which is the fellow that's been doing a lot of the Russian negotiations. We didn't know if the letter was going to make it to Donald Trump or not, but surprised everybody. He tweeted the whole letter.
At the time, former President Biden was in office, and how has things changed?
Really don't want to throw anybody under the bus too much, but we were really sort of ignored by then. But this thing works in stages too, you know, because like I say, we've tried to spread the word, and some of that may be that we just weren't vocal enough at the time, and then we had the transition. But it's day and night difference now, it seems like.
Would you all have ever imagined that David's name would make it to President Trump? In this way, though, in this way,
no, we're just ecstatic, though. It did.
Do you think he'd be prepared to come back to Huntsville knowing that he won't ever see his sons?
I hope that he would come directly back to Huntsville. But I think that he knows in his heart that one day he will.
Yeah, Margaret and Paul also share that David is part of a mural in Washington, D.C. honoring foreign prisoners, a call to action to bring them home. They say his image was added just last week. It's an effort by members of the Foley Foundation in honor of Jim Foley. Foley was a journalist held captive in Syria back in 2012. 2 years later, he was killed by ISIS terrorists. We do have an extended interview with Paul and Margaret on Fox 54 Plus. And let's wrap up this week with a special top teacher, Carla Drake of Oakwood Adventist Academy, who hatches big ideas in her classroom. You'll see what I mean.
Now, Fox 54 Top Teacher, sponsored by Calhoun Community College.
The lessons really come to life in the classroom we're about to enter. In fact, they hatch. This dedicated and outstanding educator not only teaches her students about life, but changes lives through science and faith. Parents, administrators, and most importantly, the students would have to agree. Meet this week's Fox 54 top teacher, Carla Drake from Oakwood Adventist Academy. Meet these little youngins. Wait, not those, these.
That age is a sponge. They just take in all the information.
These are Carla Drake's first graders at Oakwood Adventist Academy, and they learn a lot in her class.
Teaching is one of the best, most rewarding professions that are out there for shaping the minds of our young people. It is a passion that I have always had. I love children.
Drake has been a teacher for 25 years, but she's only taught at OAA for 2 years.
For the life science, I felt that incorporating chickens and hatching chickens and incubating chickens would be more fun than just reading about it and just seeing a video, but actually doing it.
The kiddos
Just to see the children. They were so excited.
even had a space that served as a hospital for the chicks. This was a project Drake started her first year at Oakwood, the chickens eventually going to a student's parent, Adrienne Reed, who has land of her own.
She took those chickens. We got eggs from those chickens, and these are the babies of those chickens. So talk about a full circle of life.
Both parents and peers say Drake is changing lives too.
My son Judah was in her first grade class, and it was just such a wonderful experience. She just literally changed my son's life.
It's only been 2 years, but it seems like it's been a long time. She has made a tremendous impact in our schools. Just her initiative, her innovative ideas.
Drake bringing it back full circle, hoping her chicks live, learn, and love about the giver of life.
Just to know that they know about life and that God is love and God created these creatures and that we are to take care of them and love them.
Congratulations, Carla. I did not want to leave her class. Well, count on Fox 54 Plus to bring you more great programming with in-depth local specials, Locked on Sports, true crime, cooking shows, wellness experts, and continuing weather coverage. For everyone at Fox 54 News, I'm Kenesha Dees. Have a fun and safe weekend.